Well, now to perhaps the biggest story in the world right now. President Joe Biden dropping out of the race for president. He has endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris for the position. In a statement, Biden says he believes this is in the best interest of the Democratic Party and the United States. He is now going to focus solely on completing the remainder of his term. Well, here in Kentucky, we have close ties to this conversation. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear is on every list as a top candidate for vice president. Beshear has skirted the subject for weeks, standing strong behind Biden. But does this new development change everything? Senior reporter Isaiah Kim Martinez and senior photojournalist Alyssa Newton went to the Kentucky Capitol today to find the governor and ask that important question.
The governor says when somebody calls, you at least listen. Turns out we're learning that's exactly what he did when Vice President Kamala Harris called just hours after President Biden's announcement on Sunday. Have you had any conversations with the vice president in the last 12 hours or so? Do you plan to?
Well, the vice president reached out to me yesterday, just a couple hours after the president put out the news. And I was very grateful that she would reach out to me personally. She asked for my support. I agreed. And thus this morning I fully endorsed her and will do everything I can to help her win.
Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear talking to me one-on-one outside the doors of his Frankfort office. Beshear is on a short list of Democrats being considered to be Harris's running mate. While he hasn't said publicly whether he'd entertain the opportunity if asked, I posed the question of what he'd add to a presidential ticket. But what could you bring as far as what you've learned here in Kentucky, what you've been able to do?
Well, certainly we've shown that we know how to win. We know how to reach across the divide and how to campaign in a way where we talk to people and not at them.
Louisville Congressman Morgan McGarvey is a friend of Beshear's, who also talked to him since Sunday.
I can't tell you exactly where his head is, but I can tell you what I'd love to see. I would love to see a Harris-Beshear ticket. I think that would be an amazing thing, not just for our Commonwealth, but for our country.
Taking a closer look, here's what happens if Beshear does get that phone call from the Harris campaign. He doesn't have to resign as governor unless he wins the ticket. Then Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman will step into the governor's office. Today we spoke with Coleman, who says she's ready should she need to step up and become the governor of Kentucky.
My job is to be ready, and so as a second in command, I think Kamala Harris ascending to the presidential ticket is an example of that. This happens all over the country all the time as governors are appointed or move on to different offices, and the reason that they pick a lieutenant governor is to have that succession plan in place, and they pick someone they believe is ready. And I wouldn't have accepted if I didn't think I was ready, and I don't think the governor would have asked me if he didn't think I was ready. So.
If Coleman became governor, she would have the authority to name a lieutenant governor replacement. That nominee must be confirmed by the Kentucky House and Senate. Then the new lieutenant governor will take the oath of office, making everything official.